Welcome to The Discourse, the podcast that has hot food takes,
cool food people,
and never a lukewarm moment.
If you're new here, we're a podcast where we dish and debate on the latest food trends and fads.
And as experts who work deeply within the food service industry for today's biggest global brands, nothing makes us more excited than really digging into what, how, and why people eat.
If you love impromptu conversations about today's food landscape, come on in and watch the plates fly.
I'm Chef Renee. I help direct a culinary R&D test kitchen, and I am begging for a brand to put a bicycle-friendly drive-through lane out there.
I'm Callie, trends expert nutritionist, and I think that honey mustard is a superior dipping sauce to ketchup.
And my name is Chef Cam. I manage a team of R&D chefs, and honestly, I don't mind soggy French fries.
I agree.
And that's a no. That's a no.
Well, with that, let's get into it. Awesome. Thank you. Well, welcome to the pod, Brian. So for our listeners, we have Brian Brindza as our guest today. So he is the director of Culinary and Menu Innovation at Topper's Pizza. He has over 20 years of experience in the food production industry, and his passion is creating really innovative and delicious dishes that appeal to diverse tastes and preferences. Really the perfect thing when you're working in the QSR space. Did I miss anything, Brian?
No, that's about right. Thank y'all for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Nice.
We're excited to have you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Brian, it's time to spill the sauce. How this works is I'm going to ask you a few short form questions and you're going to give us your answer. What is your cocktail of choice?
Oh, I'm a cocktail. It depends. Summertime is going to be Casamigos soda with lime. Wintertime will be an old fashioned, especially now that I'm up in Wisconsin. Old fashions.
Yes.
Yeah, beer is high life. Pretty chill. Nothing too crazy.
Champagne of beers.
Yeah, it's fancy.
Great answer.
Not too fancy. I put my pinky up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so I know Topper's doesn't have a mascot, but if you could go out to dinner with any restaurant mascot, who would it be and why?
Oh, that's easy. The king. Because he's a crazy man. I mean, you see the stuff he does. He's always creeping around, messing with people. Like he's my people, right? Like, yeah. Or Jack in the Box, right? Jack's kind of weird. I think Jack's kind of a little strange.
Kind of weird.
He's a little weird. But the king, because he's creepy. He just pops in. He's like with his weird face, and he's like, "Hey, let's go have dinner." I'm like, "Yeah, let's go, buddy."
Where would you go to dinner with him?
Yeah.
We'd go to McDonald's. Just me and the king.
Just coming in hot.
Okay, now what do you think the city with the best food is?
Oh, Chicago.
Yeah.
Right answer.
And that's not because I'm born and raised in Chicago. I've lived in Bangkok. I've traveled. You guys know how extensively we travel in our business, right? I've been to most metropolitan cities in the U.S. and globally. I've been to a lot of spots. Chicago's one of the places where you can pretty much get any cuisine. Like you could probably go through every country and probably find a place that has that type of cuisine. And it's not pretentious like New York or LA. It's chill. It's really
honestly, I can agree with that.
Oh, okay.
Take. As of recently, I agree with that. I think that some of the newer places that are opening are more fluff than they are substance. So, and I have consistently had really good food when I come visit the office in Chicago. So,
yeah.
And finally, what is the oldest thing in your refrigerator?
Oh, probably butter. I buy butter from the Amish up here, and I buy like 10 pounds at a time, and I put it in the freezer.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Probably my butter. We have a new round coming up in like a couple weeks here, so there's a year-old butter in my freezer.
Okay, so today we were talking about QSR, which just to loosely define is quick service restaurants. So your fast food chains of the world, your McDonald's, your Starbucks, your KFC, Burger King, all those guys. And we are going to start with a news segment, but today, instead of true or false, we're going to do guess that operator. So I'm going to go through two stories and then you guys are going to guess who it's about. So I think this one speaks a little bit to how relevant QSR is to American culture at large. There was an article in Forbes earlier this week after social media personality Silly Stu put out a song that has since taken over TikTok, YouTube, and SoundCloud, which debunks the conspiracy that there is a particular QSR inside the Pentagon, which is obviously not available to the public and where employees are following specific rules like keeping conversations professional, not prying on classified matters. And while on the surface, it's just another fast food counter, the article calls out that there's something about the hidden location that makes people even more curious. So the fact that you can't just walk in and order makes it feel exclusive, which we know appeals to consumers, even though it's just another franchise location. Hidden fast food in the Pentagon.
Popeyes.
Popeye.
I don't know.
Okay.
I was going to say McDonald's.
I was thinking
because
McDonald's, too.
There's
The
McDonald's
big boys?
everywhere.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's McDonald's.
Oh, all right. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
You know.
But I just thought that was crazy. They were like, conspiracy about McDonald's in the Pentagon. I was like, what's
Wait,
this
so
about?
did you say it's confirmed that it is or isn't there?
So it's confirmed that it is, and it's been there for years. But for whatever reason, this song that came out on social media has blown up, but it's like this really silly, tacky song about the fact that there's a McDonald's in the Pentagon.
Now I want to know what it looks like.
Okay. Well, that was that for news. But okay. So I just wanted to set the scene a little bit, and Brian, please feel free to weigh in if you have things, or any of you to weigh in. I just wanted to give a little bit of context for what we've been seeing happen in the QSR space recently, because I think it gives a good understanding as to why we're going to be talking about the food trends that we're talking about. So over the last couple of years, we've obviously seen inflation impact everything, but it's caused consumers to be more discerning and like way pickier about where they're spending their money because they want to make sure that they're getting good value. But that means that their expectations have also grown. So they want things to be healthy and affordable and convenient and all of the things, if possible. And we've seen what we're calling segment blurring. So these QSR operators are now competing outside of just the fast food space. So they're competing with convenience stores and also higher quality chains. And so operators have to get so much more creative in their innovation to make sure that they're adding value that's not just the classic fast food value, which used to be enough to bring in consumers. So that's kind of where we are, which kind of influences, again, these trends that we're going to talk about. But I think we'll just kick it off. The first trend we want to talk about is the fact that we're seeing expanding day parts and snacking in QSR.
Did you guys see the new Taco Bell release yesterday?
The milk bar?
Mini Crunch Wraps?
Oh.
No,
The Crunch Wrap sliders.
Yeah,
Oh.
Crunch Wrap sliders, steak and queso Crunch Wrap sliders. They have their Taco Bell Summit next week. I don't know. I'm a fan because I just like tiny little bites. I like to eat all throughout the day. And
Me
I
too,
feel
girl.
like blending day parts allows me to do that easier.
Yeah, they also have the burrito dippers where they're mini burritos and you
Yes.
dip them. I just got those last week.
Yum.
They're phenomenal.
Yes.
Also,
yes.
as a historical Crunch Wrap fan, like my family used to go out of our way to go to Taco Bell strictly for the Crunch Wrap Supreme when I was little. And so I mean, when I saw this news, I instantly sent it to my dad and I was like, we gotta go try these. But I do feel like the biggest thing about it was they were always massive. So the idea that I could have like a bite-sized Crunch Wrap is a very exciting thing.
Brian, are you guys, when you think about like changing day parts, have you guys thought about like a breakfast pizza at Toppers?
Yeah, it's interesting. So day parts are very interesting when you think about QSR pizza. So traditionally, back in the day, we were the late night spot for pizza at bar time. We're up until 3 a.m. And we're seeing a shift in our consumer patterns where younger kids are just not going out to the bar and staying out and drinking as much. So now we're shifting our focus a little bit more towards lunch day part. So how do we capture that? And of course, it's going to be smaller little bites. We have thought about breakfast pizzas, but it's something that you kind of have to be. It has to be that breakfast day part, right? You think about folks like Casey's who kind of dominate that breakfast pizza space. I don't know if it would if breakfast day part would be our thing because we're open at 10:30 a.m. Maybe we'll capture some of that brunch day part on the weekends for people who have a little bit of a hangover, like, oh, I want a really good, breakfast pizza. But yeah, we've thought about it, but I don't know if that's something we're exploring.
I have a question. What do you guys think separates? So the expanding day parts, we're obviously seeing consumers snack a lot more throughout the day, like you were saying, Renee. I don't think I grounded us in that at the beginning, but what do you guys think separates these snacks that are showing up on menus from just being another side or like a dessert if it's a sweet snack?
I think it's because it stands alone, right? It's not something that you eat as a side, right? So, if you get chicken wings, those are kind of a side, right? I mean, they could be a snack, but it's almost more like a meal, right? You just want something quick that stands alone that you don't need to have with something else, right? It's things that you normally don't pair together. And you just have a quick little bite,
Like that satiating thing.
Yeah. I'll also say, like, I feel like the snack items tend to be just like a little bit more novel and like interesting to like really make sure like it kind of grabs you. Like my mind immediately goes to like, I think it's Jack in the Box that does like the little mini tacos. Like I feel like that's like a perfect snack. It's like you get like 6 and it's like perfect. It fills you up and everything. But yeah, definitely form factor would be mine.
Yeah. So we're also looking at going after some C-stores, and this is just some fun innovative things I've been thinking about, is having really cool actual snacking items on my menu, right? You could have like taquitos or a pickle in a bag or a cup of ramen, right? So if you're a college student and you order your pizza, you don't have to go to the convenience store. You get some gummies, you get some gummy bears, you get some Doritos added to that, so you can snack later in the night. So it's something I've been thinking about and playing around with. I think it might be something interesting to test out.
Yeah, you'd be kind of like a one-stop shop for the consumer. That's nice.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I feel like that's like not a big lift on like the franchisee side too, right? Easy inventory.
Shelf stable, have like 5 or 6 different boxes of products, and you could see which ones sell really well in your store, and those are your items.
Yum.
I've also been loving those walking tacos where they open a bag of chips and just like load it with like a little bit of meat or other taco ingredients, and you just eat it out of the chip bag.
We've been playing around in the dessert space a lot with this and doing ice cream walking tacos. So like taking like fiery Doritos are a good one with like vanilla ice cream, caramel sauce, chocolate, like really leaning into that kind of like sweet and savory and like different kinds of flavors that we're really seeing Gen Z engage in.
That has my name all over it.
My first pizza that I launched at Toppers was a walking taco pizza.
Yeah.
So it had like an al pastor base with some taco meat and cheese, and then we sent a box separately that had your lettuce, your Doritos, and your sour cream. So when you got home, you could build your walking taco, and it was phenomenal. It was really
When
fun.
was that?
A couple of years back, probably 2 years ago. Yeah.
I feel like that's experiential before experiential has been popping off.
Yeah.
But
It's
that's
also like so thoughtful that you put the lettuce in a different box. And like I hate hot lettuce, so thank you for me and all the other people out there who are like that. That is just, I don't know, that's so thoughtful. And like, I think that's like the big differentiator for you guys, right? Is that kind of thoughtful piece that you bring to the menu at Toppers.
Okay, but circling back to that experiential piece that I was just touching on, and you were talking about your walking taco pizza. The other trend that we definitely have been seeing a lot of that we wanted to call out is kind of just the rise of all these multi-sensory inclusions or menu items. So things that go beyond just flavor. And it made me think about the fact that, and maybe this is just like an obscure thought, but we obviously follow a lot of flavor trends, but we don't talk so much about textural trends. And like when we see multi-sensory things, whether that's like visual or aroma or whatever it's going to be, that makes it like added value in some way. I would love to see more specific textural trends show up. So like, what do you guys think about that and like the rise of that, and how do you see it evolving?
Yeah, I see a lot of textures and the really cool textures I'm seeing now are in a lot of beverages, right?
Yeah.
Like bobas, things like that. You know, when I did work with some operators, we would put like pop rocks on top of them.
Yep.
You know, just really cool. It's a space where you could. It's very forgiving. You can be playful. So I see that's where I see a lot of those really cool textural applications are in beverages right now.
Yeah, and it's funny you bring up Pop Rocks because I feel like we've seen like a wild amount of Pop Rocks innovation, like on the actual Pop Rock itself or carbonated sugar. I don't know if you've tried the Spiceology carbonated sugar, but it is like a Pop Rock like beats your mouth to like a pulp on it. It's like, I'm a Pop Rock, like the swole Pop Rock, if you will. And they're unflavored, so you can do your own flavors, or they just kind of taste like burnt sugar in a really nice caramely way. But like the fat coated Pop Rocks that like Sonic used, so that while you're drinking your slushy, then you still kind of get that Pop Rock experience. And I think it's so interesting too, because it pulls in that kind of like nostalgic trend that we're always talking about. And like, I'm sure you've been talking about nostalgia for the last 20 years, like since you started your career, Brian, because it's one of those things that just truly never goes away. It just changes who is nostalgic for what. Yeah. So
yeah,
it's kind of
It's
interesting.
an ever evolving trend. Well, I was going to say also that like it's interesting because when we talk about textures, it is one of those things that spans all of our macro trends, like boba, very globally inspired, but like Pop Rocks, peak nostalgia.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I was going to say, like, when we were talking about boba, and I've encountered this because I do a lot of beverage development, is that gen population is still a little like iffy on boba. I've found, especially with like popping boba, like they don't like that sensation.
I don't.
I mean, I grew up like eating it, like the regular, like brown sugar boba, the popping boba, like all of that. So I'm the target consumer for that. I love that. And it's just like, again, like you had mentioned, like visually, like stunning. It's really cool. Obviously you have the textures. But I still feel like we're a little ways away from it being like truly and like fully accepted. And it's unfortunate because like it's a really cool addition to beverages and such like an easy add-on to anything that you want to do.
What do you guys think about like the different sizes of popping boba? Have you tried those like really teeny tiny ones that fit through a regular size straw?
Yeah, this thing about boba, I do love it, but I always choke on it at some point while I'm drinking it. I think that's what like that barrier is people are like sucking it down. They're like, oh, all of a sudden now in the back of their throat there's a thing you're choked on.
Choke.
Yep.
Yeah, you know. Yeah.
No, that's Brian. Were there any trends that you wanted to call out that you've been following in this space that you find to be particularly interesting, or that like you love, or that you don't love?
Yeah. Do you know what's really interesting is that each individual, you know, there's trends in each different type of category within the QSR, right? And I think that's what's so special about it is we always try to see, oh, what are these trends? What are we seeing that's out in the industry? But truly, each individual category has their own sort of thing, which I really like. But the really cool thing is that pizza could pretty much do all of that stuff, right? When you ask someone, oh, what's the one food you could have for the rest of your life? Pizza, right?
100%.
And they say because you can really put anything on it. You can do a breakfast pizza. You can do a Korean barbecue pizza. You can do a chicken and waffle pizza. You can just do a cheese pizza. You can do dessert pizza.
Yep.
So for me, I'm lucky
Yes.
where I can watch all those trends. So do I have any favorite trends right now? I don't know. I just like the innovation that's out there. I think people are pushing boundaries more now than ever. You know, especially in the past few years, you know, COVID hit us and everyone just kind of like sucked in. And now it's like the renaissance afterwards. All these creative people are like doing really cool stuff. So
I
I'm
love the
excited for that.
Renaissance call out. I feel like we've never said it that way, but that is totally what it is.
It's almost like COVID gave the like permission to be like
playful.
Yeah. And like, while like I famously think that COVID made the consumer like the neediest person of all time because they cooked for themselves for 6 months and now they're like, now I want all, like, right, you hit it on the beginning, right? They want it delicious, they want it functional, they want it value driven, X, Y, and Z. But I also think that everyone staying home and being on the internet for 6 months like really opened the door to that kind of renaissance, and we couldn't have had one with, look at us finding the silver lining in COVID 5 years later, guys.
Yeah, I can't believe it's been 5 years.
Oh, God.
Jeez.
Crazy. Okay. So I think that
We're
takes
ready.
us to your hot take, Brian.
Oh, God.
What do you have for us today?
I don't know how much of a hot take it is after we've been talking about QSR food for so long. I think everyone might agree with me, but QSR food hits harder in the craveability department way more than fine dining does. Any single day. Like, if you want really good craveable food, you go to QSR. You don't go to fine dining.
I agree with that.
100% agree.
Yeah.
I agree, but I would like to play devil's advocate for a second and say, do you think that part of that is because consumers frequent QSR more often than fine dining? And so it's like that aspect of it being that consistent thing that you have had many times that makes it more craveable? Or do you think it's the food itself?
So there's a bunch of different reasons. One is it's instant gratification. You don't have to have a reservation. You don't have to do a 10-course tasting meal. It's instant. You eat it, you're like, oh, satiated, craveable, I'm happy. Nostalgia factor, right? I'm a kid from the 80s where like fast food peaked in like the 80s and 90s. Like that was like the golden age, I feel like, of like the best fast food ever. And I grew up with that. So for me, it's important.
What's your like most nostalgic fast food from growing up?
Cam, you might know this. I bought them for everybody in the office at one day.
Oh, pizza puffs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that,
What
but also
that, yeah.
McRibs.
That's right. Yeah, you did get me my first McRib. That's right. I do remember that.
I hooked you up with your first McRib. Yeah.
And a bunch of pizza puffs.
And pizza puffs too. Yeah.
Can I
that's
ask
more of
what
a
a
Chicago
pizza
thing.
puff is?
Oh, Brian.
So a pizza puff is a sort of like a stuffed. It's you take the pizza ingredients and you put it in a pastry puff and you deep fry it. So it's like it's like the original Hot Pocket.
Okay.
It's the original.
Okay.
It's the OG Chicago Hot Pocket. Yeah, and you find them all over Chicago at like hot dog stands and beef places. When you're in Chicago, Cam, take care.
Yeah, we gotta
We'll get
me
her
a
one.
pizza puff.
The corner store sells them.
They
and
do.
our office is actually right by their factory where they make them. So I'm curious, Brian, why and like, do you think when we talk about a MAC curve, right?
So really quick, do you want to briefly explain what that is?
I think that you're the trend
Okay.
expert.
Yes.
So yeah, just to like get everyone on the same page. So a MAC curve stands for menu adoption cycle, and basically per category, it will show you from inception, adoption, proliferation to ubiquity, like what is trending in that category, whether that's like flavors of donuts or whatever it's going to be.
So do you think that because we think about fine dining in inception,
You got it.
inception, if we think about fine dining as that inception phase, do you think that all QSRs or a lot of QSRs are pulling from fine dining for their inspo, and how does that affect your take?
So, yes and no. Like foie gras will never be on McDonald's menu, right?
Yeah.
I hope so.
Thank God, honestly.
Right. I think that there are some trends that come from fine dining that get placed in the heads of creators like us, but we don't specifically use those exact things, right? Like Cam, I saw you did a beef Wellington bites, right?
Yeah.
Like I don't think you'll ever see that on Burger King's menu, but it's a really cool idea. But you'll see a pig in a blanket maybe on IHOP's menu, right?
Yeah.
So there is something to it, but it's not like a one-to-one thing, right? But what you will see is fast food going the other way. If you think about, Danny Myers and Shake Shack, right? He was a restaurateur who opened up a hot dog cart that turned into Shake Shack. Like, you look at Au Cheval, where you had this sit-down.
I went there last week for the first time.
Oh, really? Did you go to?
Yeah.
So there's small cheval and Au Cheval. So Au Cheval used to be a 2-hour wait, and they're like, "Hey, let's make a small cheval that makes our burger, but faster and better." Right?
Yeah,
so
better.
there's some of that too. And then I don't know if you guys have heard about the chain out in LA. It was a concept created by BJ Novak, the writer from The Office, and Chef Tim Hollingsworth. And what they did is they basically made a upscale restaurant where they would duplicate QSR foods. So they would do the Big Mac, they would do the McRib, they would do the Crunch Wrap, they would do the Blooming Onion. But
it's called The Chain.
It's called, I think it's just called Chain. Yeah, Chain.
Huh.
And they would have they would bring in, it was a pop-up place. I think they now have a brick and mortar, but it was a pop-up spot. And like all the movie stars would go there, and it was really cool. It's one of those concepts where I'm like, oh my God, I should have done that. And it's really cool because BJ Novak, who is, from The Office and he's a writer, he kind of built a story around it. And then he found a chef to do this stuff. And so for me, like I see more QSR sometimes going backwards and chefs trying to duplicate things. Like I've seen chefs try to duplicate the Big Mac multiple times.
Yeah.
Like what other fast food places have you seen go the other way? Is there anything out there that you guys have seen?
Well, I've seen like nostalgic retail items recreated on menus, like a homemade Cheez-It or like a cosmic brownie or things like that. What about you guys? Renee, you were about to say something.
Well, I was going to say like the use of bacon on burgers. I think we really saw like bacon explode in fine dining. And then we saw that kind of lean into QSRs. I'm specifically thinking, and while it was a bit of a flop when it launched, the bacon sundae that was at Wendy's, right?
No, Burger King.
Burger King?
Burger King.
Burger King?
Yep.
Okay, yeah. So I'm thinking about that and how that feels, and just like bacon in general, like what, like this like 10 years ago,
yes.
Like really was exploding everywhere. And, obviously like, I don't know, that's a trend where I really think came from fine dining, like the explosion of it outside of that initial burger that A&W put on their menu. That is like the first bacon burger at a QSR.
So go for it.
I think there's something to that because, what we do, like we go to do food tours and we go to these restaurants and then we take those ideas and then we work with these operators to develop them, so there is some give and take. Like I said, I don't think it's a one-to-one. Bacon might be one of those one-to-one things, but I don't always see it as a one-to-one. I think it's mostly inspiration, and it's good inspiration. Without those fine dining restaurants, though, we wouldn't have these QSR menu items that have been perfected. Like that's the difference between fine dining and QSR is that these items have been perfected to have, fat, salt, sugar. They worked on these for years, right? There's some of these bigger brands that work on stuff for years just to make it perfect for you at a cheap price that's fast and convenient and crave-worthy.
And I think it's worth also adding to that because I totally agree. Like, I think the consistency of those items is so underrated. Like, I mean, that's why people go back, but it's because it tastes the same every single time. Like, that's not easy to do.
No, it's not.
I love it.
So concepting. So are we thinking, I mean, I don't know if you guys have already kind of gotten there in your head, but are we thinking like what QSR amazing menu item would you make more elevated, or like how are you thinking about this?
I like that idea. Yeah. Like how do you take something that is nostalgic that you could go to and you're like, oh, that is a Chick-fil-A sandwich. How do you elevate that and bring it to the fine dining side? Kind of like what Chain did is how they kind of elevated these. What are some of the classic, iconic, menu items that are out there that we would want to duplicate?
I mean, if we want to, and I don't know, you can shut this down. If we want to think about toppers, I always think about the mac and cheese pizza as being something that's like super nostalgic, feels like it could only be done at a QSR because both those things are like super rich and craveable. So I think it'd be fun to ideate around that if you are interested.
Could you make a mac and cheese pizza puff that's not like a classic mac and cheese ball? Like bites.
Stuff it with like
make it
like a pizza puff.
Yeah, but mac and cheese.
Mac and cheese pizza puff. Ooh, I like that.
Cheese-a puff.
Cheese-a puff.
Okay, so what kind of noodles would you put in there?
It's got to be something like the noodle has to be like the bronze casted. Like it has to be like something really fancy. Like
what about cavatappi?
I think cavatappi is like,
that's my favorite pasta.
Maybe it's because like I've written and developed so many concepts with. I feel like
fair.
that's why, like, you know.
What's like the elevated macaroni? Like maybe like the papettis, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, like that's like the next level up of a macaroni. It's kind of got like a fun little shape. It's got the little grooves on it. It's tiny but not too tiny. Maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that.
Okay.
And what
so
kind
let's
of,
talk about.
Yeah, the cheese.
Yeah, what kind of cheese?
Ooh, I don't know. There's so many.
Are we
We're
going to be
back to
putting
cheese.
Are we putting American cheese in this at all?
I mean,
If you're making it for fine dining, are you using American cheese?
okay, we're using sodium citrate.
yeah, I was like, do we have to use sodium citrate?
Yeah.
And
Right.
What is that? Educate me.
So sodium citrate is like a binder. It's found in American cheese. So it's the thing that prevents your mac and cheese from getting like lumpy and grainy.
Okay.
And so a lot of chefs, when they make their mac and cheese, they'll just throw a few slices in, or they'll like go the fancy and formal route of like measuring sodium citrate and putting it in the correct way. I'm very clearly not one of those chefs.
I was
so.
going to say, like, the reason why chefs will like use sodium citrate or just like use American cheese is because if you make mac and cheese with like a roux, there can be the graininess.
Yeah.
Like you can run into that. So this is like a nice, just like easy way to go about it. But I like that.
What if
using
it's a
sodium
hybrid?
citrate.
What if it's a hybrid? Like
Definitely.
Like let's stick to the traditional, American cheese, but let's add, like some Gruyere or some,
Gruyere.
something that has a little bit of a
some
bite to it.
Fancy
Maybe
aged cheddar.
something,
too.
maybe a little smoky note.
Smoke Gouda.
Smoke
I love
Gouda.
a
Smoke
Gouda.
Ooh, like
We did shout out the Mars Cheese Castle the last episode.
We did.
oh
yes.
yeah.
Shout out Mars Cheese Castle again.
Yeah, like
Okay.
a fancy five cheese from Wisconsin, right? Like let's keep within the Toppers theme.
Yeah.
Five cheeses. Okay. Yeah,
Five
I
cheese
like that.
Wisconsin mac and cheese puff.
Nice. And then in terms of the actual dough,
Yeah.
what does dough innovation look like for this?
I mean, something laminated for sure.
Oh, damn. Okay. Yeah.
I mean, I agree. I think it's laminated. Is it like brushed in like a butter or an egg wash that is infused? So is it like like brushed with thyme butter and like topped with like a flaky smoked salt?
I mean, part of me was. Sorry, Brian.
Are we deep frying them though?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Oh,
Deep frying or baking?
What could go on after?
Well, we can deep fry and then finish.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah.
Reheat, the
Part of
refire.
me, I don't know how you guys feel because like it's Wisconsin and beer is like, does there need to be some sort of beer component to this?
Ooh, just go beer cheese. Ooh,
Five cheese.
A beer cheese.
Wisconsin five cheese.
5 beer.
Whatever that's
Are we
called.
having
Right,
five
yeah.
beers? We're gonna drink five
Maybe
beers.
that's
and
what
then we're
it's
gonna
served
make it-
with. One new Glarus flavor,
Yeah.
and then when you finish all 5, you get
Yeah.
get your pizza puff.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, yeah. Is there going to be a dipping sauce?
There
Because you
has
guys
to
were talking
be.
about hot sauce and ranch.
What if it's like a beer, like a beer dipping sauce, like
Like a beer hot sauce.
beer hot sauce, maybe.
Beer hot sauce. I mean, obviously, like beer mustard's a thing.
Is
I don't
it?
know.
What goes good with mac and cheese, like as a sauce?
I mean, hot sauce,
Hot sauce does go really well.
ketchup. I know some people that would do that. I found
Barbecue.
that weird. Barbecue.
Barbecue. We did talk
Full
about
circle,
barbecue
full
earlier.
circle.
Yeah. I like that.
Yeah.
Because it's typically served a lot. Mac and cheese bites are served with ranch a lot, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mac and cheese,
Or like a
bites.
marinara.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm
You're
not a
gonna have
fan of
that
eating
in
like
the
ranch
pizza
with
puff.
them. It's like
Mm-hmm.
double fat.
Yeah, double
and I'm
creamy.
like, I need like a punch of acid in there.
Yeah.
I like barbecue sauce. Like what are we thinking like you called out Kansas City barbecue sauce, something that, right? Because we have the smokiness
Right.
in our pizza puff or in our mac and cheese elevated puff. What kind of what notes do you think our barbecue sauce has to have to like really be able to stand up to that?
Definitely some acid in there, right? So more of like a thinner, kind Carolina barbecue sauce, right? A little spice,
Yeah.
but not too spicy, and a little bit of that vinegar base, right, with that tomato to offset it there with the sweetness. So yeah, I think that would be the balance. But like
I'm ravenous right now.
but thick enough though to like, dip it, right? So not
Right.
really thin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It adheres, that like special balance.
Nappe. Yeah.
Yeah. So we are deep frying this though, right?
Yes, you have to.
Okay. Just making sure. It's like
Don't be playing games with me, buddy.
hey, you mentioned laminated dough. I was like, are we still on that train? I don't think so, but I just got to double check. Okay. No,
Okay,
I'm vibing with
so
all this.
let's recap because this sounds like a long name. What is it, like a 5 beer cheese? Are we sticking with the beer cheese part?
think
Or is
we've
it too much?
Lost it.
I think we
that
need to do
there-
some R&D and see which one tastes good.
Yeah.
This is what we're doing. There's not many times where I'm like, oh, I come up with an idea and that's the one. So maybe,
Yeah,
Cam, you're going to have
true.
to noodle it around and say, hey, what pairs well together?
Oh, you're gonna have to noodle it around.
Cheesy.
Very cheesy indeed.
Yeah, but
A
Okay.
little out of pocket, if you would.
So it's also a nostalgic take on the mac and cheese bite.
yeah.
Yeah, I like it. Just so
All
you know,
right.
Cam, I will come down to Chicago and try this creation with you if I get invited.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Heck yeah.
Get it on the calendar. Let's go.
Let's go. I'll come play with you. I miss,
Hey.
I miss you guys. I haven't seen you
I
in a while.
know.
I know.
I'm very excited to see this come to life.
Yes.
So it sounds like we have our recipe.
Yep.
And before we wrap up, Chef Brian, anything to plug?
Yeah, I just want to say, I'm really proud of you guys. It's really good to see you guys and how far you guys have come on your culinary journey. Watching your growth, your creativity, bringing people together through food is always awesome, and I appreciate that. I remember when you interviewed, and it was so funny. There's this sticker on my desk, and I was like, "Who left this here?" I was like, "Hire them right now and put them on my team. I need them in my life." And I was lucky enough to work with you guys for a long time, and it's really great seeing you guys and all the cool stuff you're doing. So keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Wow,
That's my
like
plug.
so emotional. Oh my
Yeah.
God.
Dang. I was not prepared for that.
No.
Yeah.
Caught him
God.
off guard.
I know.
As you get older and you have people that you work with that are younger and you watch them grow up and watch them be successful, you'll have these same feelings. It's really cool. So
That's awesome.
yeah.
We really
Aw,
appreciate it.
Thank you, Brian.
Yeah. We appreciate it. We appreciate you. We
Yes.
appreciate you taking the time out of your day to kind of chat with us and being our first guest.
Yeah,
you
epic
know.
first
Yeah.
guest.
Yeah.
For sure.
You're awesome.
Let's do it.
Okay. So that's it for today. If you're liking the show, please take a minute to subscribe wherever you're listening or watching. If you're on YouTube, we love comments, so drop them down below. And if you're listening on your podcast app of your choice, leave us a rating and review. We are hungry for feedback. And until next time, keep it delicious. Thanks, guys.
See ya.
Peace.
Bye.